Hey, good morning and welcome to Social Media Pie. This is my version of LinkedIn Live where I bring on inspiring people, that's the P, to inform, that's the I, and educate you, that's the E. And this is my version of LinkedIn Live, and I bring in different interesting folks from around the world. And today I've got somebody from the Pacific coast of the U.S. joining me very, very early in the day. Claire Davis, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Brenda. Don't worry, I'm on my third cup, even though it's only six, and that's how parents have to do it. That's how we're
That's
doing it.
right. It's all
Parents of
about the
littles.
multitasking. Well, I'm delighted to have you on with me, and I want to welcome our guests. Anybody who's watching, you can see I've got a little ticker reminding below. Let us know where you're watching from. Say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, whether you're watching this live or in playback. This lets us know that the stream is actually picking up on LinkedIn. And that's one of the challenges when we go live, Claire, is we can't like tap the microphone and say, can you guys hear me in the back, right?
Yes, exactly. Let us know if we're coming through loud and clear. It's so funny how you can do so many lives, but still tech issues happen to all of us. So,
Yes. So we
yep.
actually had a tech issue this morning. So what I do, guys, is as I'm prepping my guests, we usually come on about 10 minutes before we go live. And for the purpose of testing the microphone, the audio, giving them reminders about looking at the camera, making sure the angles are all good, running through my run of show. And then when we first came on, I'm talking and Claire couldn't hear me. I could hear her. And, I was doing the universal gesture for I'm figuring it out, which is hold on, right? I'm tapping this button and that. And come to find out, my daughter is sometimes goes on my laptop in the evening. She's playing Minecraft with her friends. And she unplugs the microphone, but then she turns it off. So I'm like plugging the microphone back in and I'm tapping, it's not working. And I'm like, okay, I gotta just turn the button on. But we
Oh,
figured
I
it
love
out
it.
together, Claire. We did a little bit of troubleshooting.
Got this. Got this, Brenda. Easy peasy. Oh my gosh. You guys, Brett, Matt, Denise, Shannon, it's so nice to see you.
Are
It's
these
so
your
nice to
peeps coming in?
yes, you guys,
Awesome.
thank you for the support. I love you guys.
Oh,
Awesome.
that's awesome. So as you guys are continuing to drop your comments and continue to do so throughout the show, we'll have an opportunity for you to ask questions a little bit later on. But I want to talk about Claire. So Claire and I came into each other's LinkedIn spheres, so to speak, by way of our mutual support for the job seeker community. And last year I ran this series I did these once a month for about 4 or 5 months, LinkedIn Live-a-thon for job seekers. And Claire was one of the speakers at that event. And there was certain people, it was the first time I met them coming through this LinkedIn Live-a-thon. And certain people, I just felt like they were amazing presenters, had such great energy, great insights, were very well received by the audience. And Claire was one of those. I had to kind of hand pluck her back and say, let's do a solo LinkedIn Live sometime and let's talk about something. And I said, what do you want to talk about? And Claire said, hey, let's talk about how to run a job search and write a resume like a sales pro. Now, Claire, before we get into that topic, why don't you take a few minutes to tell people a little bit about you and your business?
Oh, heck yeah. Thanks, Brenda. And I'm so grateful for you having me back. That was one of my first big live chats, and I'm grateful to you. So I'm so pumped to be back here with you, Brenda. So my name is Claire Davis, for anybody who hasn't met me yet, and I am the owner of Traction Resume. Where I help sales leaders, specifically in medical sales, to get great jobs and to make more money with great resumes and interview prep. And believe it or not, we are all in sales for ourselves. So today I'm going to give you a couple of tips so you can harness some of these things to move your career forward in confidence. So I'm really pumped to talk about this today.
So I'm curious, how did you get into this business? Has this been what you've done your entire career, or were you in corporate and then kind of came into it, or where did the backstory come from?
Oh my gosh, good question. So I joke because when I was young, I grew up in the recruiting industry. My parents had a pharmaceutical recruiting business. And when we would go out to dinner, all the families around us would be chatting about school and vacations and things like that. And we would be discussing how the candidate did in the interview. And I clearly remember this as a 10-year-old sitting in the middle of a PF Chang's and talking about, did they get their brag book out? Did they remember to close? Like, what 10-year-old talks about that? So from there, I ended up going into medical sales myself and loved it. Had a wonderful career there. Loved working with those physicians, helping with patients get the resources they needed. But what happened was I ended up getting laid off 4 times. And so I have a picture of this specific. This is going to be a random one, guys. So hang on with me for just a second.
I love hearing the backstories because it's so funny, like how many of us have been thrust into entrepreneurship and working for ourselves
Yeah.
because the universe nudged us to it. Not because we're like, I'm going to do this thing. It's like, no, the universe was
Yes.
like, no, you're not. You know?
Exactly. Well, and Brenda, it's funny because really I never intended to be an entrepreneur, like I think many of us, right?
Mhm.
But once you get laid off 4 times in a row, you get really good at starting over and
Mhm.
preparing yourself to do that every time. And good morning, Dan.
Oh,
I see
hi,
you
Brenda.
chatting it up.
Like he just happened to see me. Oh, is Brenda here? Let me change the view to make Claire a little bit larger for you, Dan. There you
There
go.
you go. Dan, I've got something special right here in my background for you.
What is it?
He,
Tell us.
so this is a beautiful bag of Pete's Coffee. Not a sponsor,
Oh.
but I know that this is near and dear to Dan and I's heart. And he has not come around yet to Pete's, but one day, Brenda, I have high hopes. I have high.
Oh.
Are you a Pete's drinker? Are you a coffee drinker?
I don't think I ever have had. Is it a chain or is it something you have to buy off the internet or I have to look into this?
It's a chain. Don't worry, I'll send you your inaugural pound of Pete's
Oh my
coffee. I
goodness. So
promise.
special. That's awesome.
But listen, here's what happened. So like so many things that you mentioned, you end up getting thrust into these positions and then you've got to figure it out. And
Mhm.
so, oh, thank you, Brett. And so one of those ways was because I'd started over so many times and figured out how to do it faster and faster, friends and family and colleagues started to take notice and say, well, can you help me with my resume? Can you help
Mhm.
me with my interview that I've got coming up? And of course, I wanted to do that. And finally, my husband said, I think you're supposed to do this full time. And so after I had my kids, we ended up jumping right in and starting the business. And it's been a wonderful ride ever since. So I'm honored to be able to do it. I'm honored to be able to stand with people who are in a tough spot. And it just feels really hard on
Mhm.
so many levels when you're laid off, or when
Mhm.
you're out of work or in a job that you hate for any reason. And so my true mission is to help people get out of that and proceed through their career with confidence.
That is awesome. And I know it must have been so hard to go through those 4 layoffs, Claire, but I for one am glad because we probably would not be talking here today about what we're
Yeah.
doing. And you probably would not have helped all the people that you have helped. I'm sure hundreds, if not
Oh.
thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people that you help in all your work that you're doing. And we're reaching more of them here today. So I am delighted. So let's jump right in, Claire. And you guys can see the topic right above. We're going to be talking about how to run a job search and write a resume like a sales pro. So, Claire,
Awesome.
how do we do this? This sounds amazing. Let's get going into it.
Well, Brenda, the first thing I get asked is, Claire, I don't know if my resume is the problem, right? Because we all know if you're here, you are very well aware that the resume isn't the one and done factor for getting the job that you love, right? You've got your resume, your cover letter, your interview, all the networking that you need to be doing. There are a lot of factors at play. However, if you can answer one of these questions and it rings true for you, then you might know it's your resume. So the first one is, if recruiters are approaching you for the wrong fit opportunities. And this generally happens when your resume isn't speaking to what it is that you're great at and what it is that you want to do next, and particularly how you provide value to what you want to do next. So that's number one.
Hmm.
Number two is if after applying for one position, suddenly they're asking you to interview for a completely different role. So if that's happening to you, again, it's a positioning thing. It's that what your resume is speaking to isn't exactly pointing to where you feel like you want to make that impact.
Did I get that question correct? After applying for one position, a recruiter's asking you to apply for a different role. Did I get it?
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
and let me slow down too.
Yeah. No, this is
There
good.
are,
I'm
of
like
course.
trying to grab these gems as we go. This is awesome.
Okay, here's another one. Here's number three. If your friends and your family are confused about what you do. And I think a lot of us can relate to this. If you ask my kids what I do, they think I just, play on the computer with big fancy lights. Like it's a little bit more than that when you're in career coaching. But um, if your friends and your family are asking what you do, and this is why. So generally when we write our resume and we're sending it out, before we do, we say, hey, can you take a quick look at this? And that is smart. please do this. Get eyes on your document before you send it. But if even your friends and family can't tell what you do, who are the people who are the most likely to give you more than that 6-second scan, then you need to clarify and probably get your resume down to be a little more concise, right? I mean, Brenda, you know, from any marketing message, if it's too complicated, we're not going to get it, right?
Right. Absolutely. And it's interesting how you say these things. Like if you show your resume to a friend or family member and then they're still like, but what, and the question they might ask afterwards, but what are you looking for again? Like they're kind of like,
Right.
maybe just didn't get it after reading your resume, but what are you looking for again? Like if they're asking that and they're looking at this resume maybe for the first time, that's a
Right.
cue. So listen for these words, guys. If you're hearing them, it might be a cue that you need to redo your resume, it sounds like.
Yes, definitely. It's all about clarity. That way that, you know, when Aunt Sally is at a party and her friend is a director of operations somewhere you want to work, she knows that you are targeting that kind of thing, right? So clarity is key. Okay, number 4. If you get to the interview and they spend more than 10 minutes in the beginning clarifying your experience, that's generally a great litmus test for it's not clear on your resume and it needs to be clearer. So that's number 4. And then finally, number 5, you get repeatedly ghosted for right fit jobs. And you guys know how painful this is. I mean, you know, put it in the chat if this has happened to you. If you knew this was an ideal opportunity, you're way qualified, you've got the passion and the drive, but they ghost you. It's likely because the message you're conveying isn't tapping right into the pain point that hiring manager is trying to solve. So these are just a couple of good questions as a baseline to say to yourself, okay, well, is it really my resume or is it maybe something else?
This is interesting, this last one, and I'm not looking for a job anymore. I kind of left corporate after my last, nudge forward from the universe. We're going to use that phrase. And
Nudge.
I never looked back, but I remember like before that happened, I was looking for a job and I was applying for jobs. And when you say this statement, when I get repeatedly ghosted for right fit jobs, I was like, I would apply for jobs and I was super excited about them. I'm like, my background is a perfect fit. My experience is everything. I can really see myself hitting the ground running, and I would never get approached. I would never get a call back or any sort of response for it. And, I feel like sometimes clear, like resume, coming to terms with the fact that your resume might not be in the right place. It's a little bit of an ego thing.
Yeah.
Well, my resume looks great. What do you mean they're not calling me back? Right. Is that true? What do you think?
I think so. I mean, I'm sure from your, experience with marketing too, it's the pride that we take in the message that we finally take the time to create for ourselves. And you guys, if any of you here are like, Claire, this is ridiculous. It's easy for you, but it's so hard to tell my story because it's complex. Let me put your, fears at ease. It's really hard for anybody to tell their own story. In fact, most of the resume writers that I talk to, we all outsourced our own resumes at some point because you're almost so close to it that it can be a real challenge. So if you have the time, if you've got some great people to bounce it off of, or if you have the resources to invest in a writer, it's always well worth it. Same with marketing. Any kind of messaging where we're trying to be an objective learner of what our ideal audience is trying to, how we reach them, it can be hard without that third party. So, if anybody's like, oh, it's way too hard to write my own resume. Don't worry, guys. I completely relate. It is hard to tell your own story.
Yeah. Even for marketers. I mean, I see a lot of people on LinkedIn that are marketers and they don't have a very good LinkedIn profile. And it's not because they don't know marketing. It's because it's so hard to market ourselves. Like, we kind of think about LinkedIn as like a job search site. It's not. It's more for professional networking, but there is a portion of people using it that way. But it's the same way. Like, and once you kind of, get them in the right mindset for that, they understand how to use it more effectively. But I love this concept of like having your resume done for you, or having an expert who knows what they're doing to guide you through that process of doing it for you.
It can really help. It can really help. And there's resources of all kind. You can do the one-to-one, which is typically more expensive. You can do great templates. So, just everybody take a sigh of relief. It is very challenging, but here's why the resume is so important. And here's how you can use it like a sales professional. So a lot of
Okay.
times you'll see great sales leaders right here on LinkedIn, and they talk a lot about things like benefits over features, talk about results instead of features, right? And I want you guys to start listening to those components because that's really important. 99% of the resumes that I look at are are written in a one-sided way, which what I mean is they're written from the perspective of here's everything I've done and here's all the things I've accomplished,
Mhm.
period, right? And now one a post I put out yesterday is more than true. Where we need to make the mental mindset shift is that the resume document is actually a personal sales page. It is not meant to be a full chronology of everything you've done in your career history. And, like we were talking about before, a lot of pride is wrapped up in our messaging, but also, I mean, a lot of pride is keenly wrapped up in our career, right? I mean,
Mhm.
we spend 60 to 70% of our life working. So it becomes a real capstone of who we are. And so it really pays to learn how to talk about it effectively and in a sales manner so that you can connect with who you want to serve and how you do that so well. So first of all, if your resume looks like a laundry list of everything you've done since college, it's time to take a fresh look because the longest resume is not going to be the one that's read. So let me talk a little bit about step one.
Can I ask a question about that before we go on,
Of
Claire? Because
course.
I think and I see this too sometimes when I'm talking to people who are in career transition in between successes,
Hmm.
unemployed, whatever you want to call it. And they kind of feel like, well, I just need a job. I need to be working now. I need
Hmm.
benefits now. I need to be back on salary. I'm anxious, like really anxious. I need to get back to work. So I want to put everything on my resume because I don't want to miss out on any opportunity. So I'm just going to throw
Right.
everything in there.
Right.
Right? I mean, is
Right.
this kind of part of the throwing everything in approach that you're referring to?
Yes. And being in marketing, you are going to know this better than anyone. When we're trying to speak to everyone, we're speaking to no one. And the reality is, when it comes to marketing, the foundational principles of marketing that haven't changed for 70 to 100 years, it's this: you have to have your goal in mind first. And then once you do, you tailor your message toward that goal. So,
Mhm.
just like any wonderful marketing campaign, it's all about knowing your customer
Mm.
and bringing forward the things that make them think a lot less hard about how you are their ideal solution. So that's where we need to get with all of our personal marketing materials too. And look, we talk about how this is important on LinkedIn all the time. You've got to find your niche. You got to find your ideal client avatar, which essentially is the representative that you create that embodies your ideal audience, who you know that you serve the best and the fastest.
Mhm.
So it's really important to be able to harness these kinds of things for yourself. And the resume is how you do it, because while you do take this wonderful, catalog of experience that you have, and believe me, guys, you all have incredible value to offer. So if you're sitting there thinking like, Claire, I don't know, I've been out of, work, I'm home raising my kids, I'm afraid to jump back in the workforce, or I'm going to take a job that I hate just to get by until I find the right thing. Listen, making ends meet is important, absolutely. And when you're ready to start going after that job that lights you up again, the one that you kind of like, you flip on AC/DC in your car and you charge up the caffeine and you head in because you love it, right? And you love talking about it at parties because you like what you're doing. When you're ready to find that job, that's when you use your resume as a sales page. And it's not,
Mhm.
and let's get into some details here because you're like, okay, Claire, you're talking all around it, but how do I do it?
Yeah.
So the very first thing you have to do is have that target. And you don't have to be the master in sales. You don't have to read, all the sales books. That's not really what I'm talking about. But when you're trying to position yourself, you just have to have good aim. So
Mhm.
take this week take this week to aim at your target. And your target is companies that light you up. And I have sort of a diagram in my mind of how I help my clients find this out. Because a lot of times they're like, well, shoot, I'm good at a lot of things, but I don't know exactly what to target. Like, what is it that I love to do? I don't know. I've been working for 30 years and never stopped to think about it. I just rode
great, because
the
you're
flow.
kind of nose to the grindstone. You're doing
Yeah.
the job, doing the thing, get the paycheck in, and then you come home and make dinner and get some sleep and shower and do it all over again the next day. And then you're in career transition. You have all this time where
Yeah.
this luxurious time where you're on hiatus, and people are like, well, what do you love to do? And you're like, I don't know, because I've been like going methodically for so many
Right.
years and I haven't been able to catch my breath. So yeah, how do we get to that point, and how do we figure out what lights us up if we're struggling with that?
So, you know, and if you're anything like me, you're spending an inordinate amount of time trying to scrape oatmeal off the kitchen table because that's how my kids eat. So when you're doing those things, here's how you find that. I like to draw 3 circles on a piece of paper and make sure they all intersect at the center.
Okay.
One of those circles needs to say, I'm going to go slow so everybody can do this. If you have a piece of paper, grab it. Or if you're on Canva, you know, get those circle tools out. Yes, you're already done.
You go. Okay, there we
Okay.
go.
So on one circle, I want you to write the word joy. Okay, like what do you really like? What's something that even, you know, in one of your most, you know, maybe jobs that you're not doing right now, but maybe even in high school or like early in your career, but you loved it. You know, think about what brought you joy. The second thing I want you to ask yourself is what felt like purpose for you. So for example, you know, Brenda, her purpose is clearly to help people find their pie, right? I mean, she helps them connect in a very real way with people. And listen, like it's 2022 and we're still needing to learn how to be human to connect with other people. You are doing really good work. And then the third thing is talent.
So I'm writing purpose as one of the second circles, right? I want to make sure I'm doing this right. Purpose and talent. Okay.
Yep. So do joy, talent, and purpose.
Awesome.
Start writing words that resonate with you for those 3 areas. And then in the middle, see where they intersect, right? So for me, what brings me the most joy is when I see other people get jobs based on following all of the, you know, face plants that I made throughout my career. Right? I love sharing my hard wins because it helps people skip the line when they're trying to get to their next level. Yeah, exactly.
I was debating. I almost put a picture of a pie in the middle, but I don't want everyone to think that their piece of the pie in the middle is my piece of the pie. Like your pie is something different. So I put a little smiley face instead. There we go.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, and it should feel like that, right? You should almost feel like, oh my gosh, I couldn't really do that for work, right? I couldn't really do what deeply brings me joy and what I feel like I'm really good at, right? Do I deserve that? Yes, you deserve that. And what I'm telling you is this: when you find what that is, now we're in business. Now you can become your own chief marketing officer. And this is where the sales mentality comes in. Now you get to position everything you do around that singular goal. So Brenda, I mean, I'm sure a lot of this is resonating with what you do for your clients.
It is. And I'm having like flashbacks right now too. It's a very psychological thing that you go through when you're in career transition, not by choice. And for me, I was coming out of my corporate shell and moving into this whole new world. And it was a very uncomfortable, awkward, emotional place to be. But then when I started having people approaching me, hey, Brenda, since you have some time, can you help me with my LinkedIn profile? Since you have some time, can you train our team on how to use LinkedIn? Since you have some time, can you help me ramp up my marketing strategy? Can you help us do social media management? And then I started kind of realizing, I mean, all these things that you were talking about, the things that give me joy, the things that I have a unique talent to do. And it was fulfilling this purpose. It's helping other people. Like for me, it was like everything just started to light up. And there was like one day I just stopped looking for jobs. My husband was kind of like, you know, what's going on? I'm like, yeah, I'm doing Miller marketing now. So, but it's a transition, and wherever you are, you know, I think even for people that are staying in a corporate path, letting go and grieving the the job that you've left is part of that process, but at some point you got to like focus on the future. And
Right.
I think this process will help you to get there, to think about there might be parts of your career that you didn't ever enjoy, right, Claire?
Yeah.
That you don't
Right.
necessarily have to do anymore.
Right. And truly, that's something important to know as well.
Mhm.
What falls way outside of those circles, right?
Mhm.
I'll give you one for myself. Something I love to do, and this is what a question I ask all my, so pretend you're in my office right now, everybody. What I would ask you if you're one of my clients is, what do you do well that other people dread?
Mm.
And that's one of my favorite things, because identifying the things that you dread or what you do that other people dread is really important. So for example, for myself, I'm a little bit crazy, and I love to interview and I love to cold call. I really love meeting somebody and transitioning and closing that gap from stranger to fan. And
Mhm.
not fan in like a social media way, but in like a, oh my gosh, I'm excited when Claire calls me. So you
Mhm.
have to find you have to find what that center is for you, what's in the center of your talent, your joy, and your purpose. Now once you find that thing, I want you to identify 10 companies or opportunities that represent that for you. And here's the part where you get to be, really focused on what it is that you want, and don't feel bad about it. Not everybody wants the same career path. Not everybody wants to be the manager of, the sales manager over at Quest, right? Like, not everybody is different. So first, make a list of 10 companies that represent what you seek
Mhm.
truly. And that's going to be your primary focus for the next month. I want you to deeply immerse yourself in those companies, research them, talk to people about them, and see how they align with what you're doing. And then look for opportunities there. Um, and since we're talking about doing this with a sales mentality, set up your call plan. I spoke recently with Lauren Greif about this, and she encourages her clients to do five, five coffee chats a day. And while that may sound like a lot, listen, here's the beautiful thing about setting up your own call plan. And I do mean a very tangible call plan. Grab a piece of paper and put 3 check boxes on it every single day, and make it so every day you can check those check boxes off and say, okay, I have contributed to my career advancement today. Then you can put your pen down, you can do a little digging, more digging if you want, but you've done the work. And once you see this happening every single day, the momentum will start generating for you. And here's a really cool fringe benefit. Once you start investing in the arena where you want to see yourself, then opportunities start cropping up, and so do talents and value that you bring to the table that are relevant that you didn't even realize. So let me give you an example. When I was working at Radiological Associates of Sacramento, I was working in sales and marketing.
Mhm.
And for that job, I interviewed and shared my sales and marketing skills. What I did not share was that I deeply love design and document creation. I love putting together branded documents and crunching down complicated concepts into clear ideas. That's why, I love taking these massive career stories and journeys and putting them down into bite-sized, tangible vignettes, so to speak. So my manager came to me and said, "Oh, Claire, like, things are going really good, and this program that you're selling is going good. The thing is, we need a manual. Do you know anybody who could write a manual?" Well, I said, "How about me? Like, I absolutely love doing that." But he would never have known it. But by being in that arena and being open to what is there, sometimes your value will just crop up, even though you don't realize it's necessary. So say you're starting to talk to a new industry, you want to pivot from engineering into healthcare. Just by getting seen and engaging in that new arena, you're
Mhm.
going to start to see these things crop up. Like, you will start to feel the momentum when you start to really invest in that space. So Brenda, do you see that with your clients too?
Absolutely. And I'm thinking this whole concept too. It's almost like, sometimes you see those horse and buggies with the horses that have blinders on them.
Yeah.
And why do they do that? So they don't get distracted by all the stuff that's going on the
Yeah.
streets and all the people and everything else. And it's like
Yeah.
when we are in career transition, it's like we don't want to miss anything. So we're kind of like looking at everything and throwing everything in the resume and applying to everything and trying to
Hmm.
randomly just talk to everyone. And what I see you doing is like getting us focused on, and even like making the 3 phone calls, looking
Yeah.
at your backgrounds and experiences, doing the Venn diagram. All of this is like giving us focus. And what I love about this concept too, Claire, is the more clear, I'm using clear, right? We get
Yeah.
on this process, I think the more opportunities come to you, because I'm a big believer in karma, universe, whether you're religious or not, but like what you put out there, the universe brings back to you. So I think the more clear and focused you get about what you are seeking,
Hmm.
it sounds like you're in agreement, the more of those opportunities start coming to you, right?
Absolutely. And I'm telling you guys, this is the difference between job searching for a year and trying to
Mhm.
target everything
Yeah.
versus job searching for one specific opportunity or a handful in one
Mhm.
industry and cutting that job search short to less than 60 days. This is the
I
difference.
love it.
And I think
Yeah.
it's that it's crushing. It's because we need to crush the mentality of lack, right? We need to really eliminate the, when we feel like we're going to leave something out, or we're not going to be considered because we're not targeting everything, when in fact,
Mhm.
when we target everything, we're really targeting nothing, because
Right.
nobody knows how to talk about it. If I came and said, I know how to make every kind of bread, and then a sourdough company says, hey, Brenda, do you know anybody who makes sourdough? You're going to have to make that mental leap and say, well, I know Claire makes all the breads, but I don't know if she makes that, So it's
Right.
really, how do we connect the dots for people where we can explain how our value meets their needs? Because they don't have all the
Yeah.
needs, they have specific needs. So the number one goal, once you find what you want to do, is identifying what those needs are. And then you
Mhm.
speak to those. So that's again, that's where the resume is going to come in. It's
All
going to
right.
come in
Awesome.
strong.
So, Claire, I want to start to move us to Q&A. We're actually going through the hour pretty quickly here, and I love this
Yeah.
conversation, but I know there's
Yeah.
going to be some folks with some questions. And I want to encourage you guys, if you have a question, just drop it in comments below now. Whether you're watching this in live or in playback, still drop your question in comments, because you never know who might be reading and who else can help
Yes.
you. And we've got a career expert. Whoops, wrong way. This way. We've got a career and strategist expert on with us here today. So I want to
Yeah.
start with, as I'm scrolling through and looking for questions, I want to ask one question, Claire, because I see a lot of people that are in career transition for different amounts of time. And sometimes I
Mhm.
bump into that person who's been searching for 6 months, searching for a
Yeah.
year, searching for a year and a half. Um, are there patterns of things maybe that they're not doing the right way, or is it focus? I mean, is it the market? I don't know. I mean, a lot of things happening with the pandemic, but I'm hearing it's a job seeker's market now. So if you've still been out of work for a year and a half, are there
Mhm.
patterns of what you're seeing in activities that job seekers are doing or not doing that are causing them to not find that next opportunity? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that everyone's circumstances are different. So I'm not standing here to say, if you haven't found your job within a year, it's your fault.
Mhm.
That's not what I'm here to share with you. But what I do want to empower you to know is that you have value and you have talent that people are looking for. It's overcoming that fear of talking specifically about those talents and
Mhm.
not worrying about the other, 60% of your job experience, right? You want to
Right.
focus deeply on what are companies trying to solve right now, right? If I'm going to go into medical sales, for example, and I know that, and I'm doing my research, and what I'm hearing is, oh, it's very difficult right now to get in front of a physician in an office because due to COVID, many offices have been closed to reps. Now, those things are changing right now, which is exciting for the environment. But think about the power you might have if you were to speak to a hiring manager and say, listen, it's
Mhm.
really challenging, I know right now, to even get in front of your customer. Here's how I have done it. Here's how I plan to do it for you. That specific pain point can be answered like that because you did your research and you knew your industry well. So once you start to really tailor what you're doing to one target at a time, you are going to see the shortening of your job search. And one quick way that you can transition what you have on your current resume and the things that you talk about already to become more sales focused, value focused statements is I have two little words for you. And Brenda, I think maybe we talked about this last year on your live. But the two little words that can literally transform your bullet points to be more action oriented and to describe the value you bring and not just the features that you have done are resulting in.
Oh, I love
I
it.
want you guys to take a look at your resume tonight. Give yourself a day. But tonight, take a look at your resume. And if you can answer resulting in, and if you can add that at the end of every bullet point, you're going to be in great shape. You're going to flip your mindset from what are the activities I'm doing to what are the results I'm generating. And results are what people are very interested in. That's a selling mentality. And that is a mentality that you want to adopt if you want to come across as a higher value candidate, literally because you are showing the value. And again, from starting way back in our early conversation here, it's all about the benefits over the features. It's all about the value over the activity. So that's a great question. Thank you for asking it.
So I love my friends at StreamYard added this new feature where now I can go through all the comments and star them, and then it kind of like puts them in a category. So now I can like pull out the starred comments that I wanted to pull up on screen here. Megan is joining us from Cleveland. Hey, Megan. And
Hi,
Megan,
Megan.
Do you know Megan, Claire?
I do.
Megan is like sunshine. She's
I
just
know.
energy and sunshine and positive. You guys, if you're not connected with Megan yet, connect with her. She's awesome. She'll ask you to do a virtual coffee. She's amazing. But Megan is saying, have a friend that you know and trust who's good with grammar to do a quick review proofread of your resume. Thoughts on that, Claire?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that, Megan. We are sometimes so nervous to share our story with others because we're afraid that it'll be judged. But if you can kind of lay that fear aside for a minute and give your document over to someone for just a quick look. And again, this is leveraging those dear friends and family we have who are willing to take a look at our documents for us, more than 6 seconds worth of time, and have them do that for you. It's worth its weight in gold. Absolutely.
Awesome. Good advice, Megan. Thank you. All right, Jeff Young. Do you know Jeff too? I feel like all the good people in the LinkedIn community, especially those that enjoy helping job seekers because it's the right thing to do. We pay it forward. Like we all know each other. We're all like this big fun club, and Jeff's one of those people. So Jeff is saying the right mindset is really needed. Just like social media is much more important than using it like a text document. Are you seeing a lot of job seekers embracing social media, Claire, and specifically LinkedIn when they're doing a job search, or are they kind of hesitant? What do you think?
I see the understanding now that LinkedIn specifically needs to play a larger part in their role. And one way I can say for sure is that every single resume that I write, we include the LinkedIn profile link. So if you guys don't have your LinkedIn profile, please understand that whether or not your profile is updated, you are being searched right now. Everybody is taking a quick look-see at when they're in the being considered to be hired. So if you're thinking, well, I don't know, I'm kind of in an industry where, for example, medical sales, I'm kind of in an industry where we don't really use LinkedIn to connect with clients, though you should. Make sure you're getting out in front of your message and at least have a cleaned up profile. And if you need specific tips, talk to this lady right here because she will set you right. But guys, don't be fooled. Everybody is Googled. Everybody is looked up online before they're extended a job offer.
And I have to give a shout out to Jeff too. Jeff down below here.
Yeah.
Follow Jeff because he does a lot of really great work in helping the job seeker community using LinkedIn as well. So check him out, and he's got the right mindset to help people too. Let's move us along here. We have another comment coming in from Josh. Hey, Josh, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Josh.
So much value in telling your story and having the third party tell you what they heard. So this is kind of going back, Claire, to this whole concept of I'm throwing everything in the resume, and you're like, nope, that's not the right. We need to get focused. We need to know who we're
Right.
talking to, what our job goal is. And he's saying there's magic in, having that other person being able to articulate and communicate your story, right?
Yes, that encapsulates a lot of things, Josh. Thank you so much for being here. But interestingly, Josh and Megan are saying something that's an alignment here, and that's that getting that story in front of other people for their take is a quick way to figure out if our message is clear and concise enough. It goes back to that. Can your friends and family tell you what you do? Because once you share that message with somebody else, because we're so close to our story, we know what we mean, but we need that third party to say, oh yes, that makes sense, or yeah, but that one part, I don't get it. And if somebody's not getting it, most people aren't getting it. So Josh, that's brilliant advice. Sharing your story with a third party to see their take on it, and if maybe it needs to be tweaked, tailored, or made a little bit more concise, is absolutely pivotal. Great point.
Awesome. Great point. Thank you, Josh. And then I see Denise, who's one of my friends from Metro Detroit. I love this expression, never ignore an open door. And I sometimes will see people that are not actively looking to make a move, and they are approached by a recruiter and they're like, I'm not going to take the phone call. I'm happy where I'm at. I have no plans of moving, or I don't like that company. Or there might be people that are in career that are being approached by companies that they never would have had any interest in. What do you think? Should we take the interview or should we not? Should we pass on it?
I think if it's interesting to you, take it. If nothing else, it's excellent practice. And listen, we could have an entire week-long live-a-thon about interviewing, but here's the deal. In a nutshell, this is the most important thing to take away about interviews. One, the interview is a conversation where you're trying to connect with the other person. Connection wins. And two, interviewing is the most critical key component to landing your ideal job, and it's simultaneously the least practiced. It's like trying to go to the Olympics without ever picking up any weights or training at all. So, and you guys don't feel bad about that. This is across the board. Everyone I work with, interviews it's a high stakes conversation. It's a little bit uncomfortable. It's a lot like a negotiation, but I can tell you a little bit of practice goes a long way.
Awesome. So I see one more question. Let me just take this banner off. Sometimes I'm like, when I'm piloting and co-piloting, I'm like, oh, forgot to take that one off.
Sure.
I did see a question coming in from Scott. And Scott, thank you so much for asking this. I see this is a question I have, a lot of people hearing asking the same thing. Yeah. Best ways to overcome age issues. Scott's 59. He's feeling like many of his skills, education, experiences, yet are still an issue. How do you get them to view you, and how do you overcome, as jobs now want 3 to 5 years of experience, not 30? What do you think?
Such a great question, Scott, and one that I'm sure is on a lot of people's minds on both ends of the spectrum. You've got now so many reports of jobs that are entry level and they're requiring 3 years of experience, right? And then conversely, what if you're working for a really cool, want to work for a really cool, modern, progressive company, but they're giving the side eye to 30 years of experience? To me, that's crazy. To me, that's 30 years of invaluable knowledge. And if we consider what happened in the last 30 years, to still be successful, you have had to take on a lot of evolution and be very, very adaptable to change. So in my book, I'd hire you. But here's the thing. When it comes to feeling like ageism is something that you're coming up against, what becomes really important on a sales resume, on a resume where you're writing it in a sales way, is sticking to those benefits, right? Not the features. So instead of the first line saying something like, I'm an executive with 30 years of experience in the oil and gas industry, right? That, while true, is not your greatest asset, because in 30 years, it doesn't necessarily hold the weight of a result. And instead, I want to know what results were achieved in those 30 years. So for example, instead of talking about just being in an industry for 30 years, what are the top 5 programs you were a part of that were a success? Measure them and tell me what timeline that they happened within, and then you will be golden. By focusing on the highlights of your career over the longevity, you will position yourself as that high value candidate, and the timeline doesn't become the focus anymore. One quick hack to do that, guys, if you're trying to do that on your resume, is to have a section that's called career highlights, and it's up in the top third of your document, and you can pull from wherever your big wins came from without adding a year, because you just want to get the results across, because age really shouldn't be a factor. So if you guys can stick to results and not rely on the length of time you've been in your career. In fact, I wouldn't even put that in your opening statement. You'll be hitting that head on.
Right. And I just put on here too, for Scott and for others. I don't like to say mature candidates. I like to say you are an experience rich candidate.
Oh yeah,
because that's what you are. It's all in like the story I like to use is if I held a bowl of something over to you, Claire, and I said, Claire, does this milk smell sour? It's kind of like leading your resume with over 30 or 40 plus years of experience within the industry. And you're kind of already scrunching your nose at it, anticipating sour milk. As opposed to, what if I held that same bowl of something up to you, Claire, and I said, can you smell this yogurt? Doesn't this smell amazing?
Oh, I like that.
So it's a little shift. It's the same thing. Yogurt is sour milk is what it is. It's, it's fermented, whatever you want to call it, but it's the way that you're positioning it. And if I take what Claire just taught us, and I said, can you smell this? And doesn't this smell amazing? And it has amazing health benefits. It keeps your digestive tract clear, all these other things that you talk about, the results of eating this yogurt, right? So it's a little bit of a flip in orientation there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's also a great way, you guys, if you're trying to pull experience from earlier in your career, and say you're at home with your kids for the last 3 to 8 years or so, raising your kids, or you want to get back or you've had to take care of a family member, or you took a hiatus for health reasons, whatever it is. If you're trying to pull results if you're trying to get back into the industry, pull results from earlier in your career where you made that impact and talk about them at the top. That goes in the top third in that career highlight section. It can also help you to sort of overcome that feeling of, oh no, I have a gap on my resume. A lot of times that can really help you as well.
That's awesome. Well, Claire, I feel like we could talk another hour easily.
I know.
We have to bring you back and for another LinkedIn live chat at some other date in the future. But I want to be respectful of your time, Claire, and let you get back to the rest of your day. As we start to wrap up the conversation here, I want to pull up your LinkedIn profile up on screen and then ask the question, are you open to connecting with people? Or you kind of follow first? Or tell us a little bit about when we visit your profile, what are your preferences there?
Yeah, absolutely. Please come over, follow me on LinkedIn. And you guys, I have a free resource if you're interested. I wanted to share with you today, because a lot of us even think like, okay, now I have to talk about results, but like how? Like, what do I, other than adding resulting in, like I need more prompts. Claire, give me more. So if you guys go to tractionresume.com, I have a free resource for you over there. It's called the Interview Magnet. And essentially, there's 11 prompts over there waiting for you to walk you through creating those qualitative and quantitative metrics that you are going to want on your resume to position yourself as a value add candidate. So check it out. It's at tractionresume.com on the homepage, and it's called the Interview Magnet. So if you scroll down a little bit.
So let me just put the web address up on screen real quick here.
Awesome.
I'm trying to do this co-piloting thing. I was like, sometimes I wish I had like somebody helping me produce in the background, but I like the control over it. All right. So I'm on your webpage. Where am I going now?
So scroll down.
Okay.
Feel free to jump on the newsletter if you like. It's fun. And then if you scroll all the way down, there's a little, there it is. It says, improve your resume in 30 minutes. You guys, this is no joke. It will transform your document like that. It's called the Interview Magnet, and download this, use it, walk through the prompts. I'm going to guide you in the kind of questions you can start asking yourself to generate more value statements for your resume. So check it out.
Is this free, Claire, or do we have to pay for this?
No, it's free.
Oh, you guys got to go check this out. This is free. I'm going to even check this out because I'm always coming across people that are looking for different job strategy tips, interviewing tips, things like that. This is amazing, Claire. And let me go back to your profile for just a second here on LinkedIn as well. I'm going to try to navigate to keep us in the same window. Here we go. All right. So
doing beautifully, Brenda. This is a well-run show. I tell
Oh,
you.
thank you. I love how you have brand continuity. Did you guys notice that between her website and her LinkedIn profile? We've got that same gold banner, the same stylistic font, everything else is included in here. So here's your LinkedIn profile. So if we visit your profile, are you follow first or can people connect with you? What's your preference there?
Right now, I'm follow first, probably for the rest of the quarter, because this is like an insanely big hiring season. So if you guys send me DMs, please be mindful. I will get back to them within 24, 48 hours. But it is so busy right now that I'm a little bit backlogged. So
Yeah,
I still
follow.
want to hear from you, but follow first.
Okay. And then I also see you have a business page on here too, Traction Resume. I'm going to navigate right to here. And people can follow your business page as well on LinkedIn, right?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Did I put
Absolutely.
that up on screen? Let me see if I can do this. Sometimes I did have it, but now I can't find it in my banner. So I'm just going to add the new one up here again. All right, Claire.
I
And
love
then
it.
as we start to wrap the conversation, is there anything you're working on right now that folks should know about? Workshops, new offerings, services that you want to remind us about?
Yes, I am. Right now, if you want to find out more, I'm putting together a course to teach you how to write your resume like a sales professional, soup to nuts, so you can shorten that job search. And if you want in on that, go back over to my website or check out my featured section on LinkedIn. And I've got a link to my newsletter, and that's where I'm going to start rolling it out this next quarter. But I think you're going to love it. So please feel free to jump on that list, and then I'll keep you in the loop for when it's ready to launch.
So show me where your newsletter is at. Is it the one that says 90 seconds of medical sales, that one, or is it a
Yeah,
different one in the feature section? Okay, so if we click on
that's the
that,
one.
that'll take us to your newsletter. All right,
Yeah,
awesome. I like to demonstrate that on screen for folks that are watching. And there we go. I'll sign up as soon as we're done here so they can kind of
awesome.
see immediately how to get there. Awesome, Claire. Well, this was a delight. And today, guys, if you missed the beginning portion, you can go back and watch the replay as soon as we're done here. We were talking about how to run a job search and write a resume like a sales pro. So many amazing pieces of advice in here, Claire. And any final comments for us before we wrap up today?
I just want to share, you guys, please know that whether or not you know how to talk about it yet, if you're feeling like, I'm not sure what my value is with the world, you have incredible value. It's all about finding that great aim for what you want to do next and learning how to talk about the results that you bring to the table that will get you there. So I really appreciate your time. And Brenda, you are a gem. I could talk with you for days. I'm so
Oh.
appreciative. Thank you so much for having me on again.
Oh, this was a delight, and like I said too, I'll bring you back some other time because I feel like we could probably pick another topic and have a lot of fun
Yeah,
chatting about it too. So,
anytime.
thank you all so much for watching and for joining us in the conversation today. It was a lively chat, Claire. I don't think we got through all of the questions and comments, but I'll encourage you to go back to LinkedIn if you're able to today and check those out. And for the folks that are watching, as soon as the video is done, I want to ask you guys for a favor. Could you do a favor for me? That's as soon as the video is done. You'll see it'll be a post on my LinkedIn timeline, and you can click on the share button and then share the video as a post with your LinkedIn network. Tag Claire when you do so, and maybe just tell us something that you learned by watching the video. By
Mhm.
doing so, you're helping to broadcast this message out to more people. You never know who you might be helping by sharing it forward. And there's a lot of conversation happening right now about the people that are on LinkedIn. I don't like to call them lurkers because it sounds negative, but they're readers. Claire, you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? Those people that are kind of like passively engaging. They don't ever like things or comment
Mhm.
on them, but they're the hiring managers, sometimes the recruiters, sometimes the VP,
Yes.
the C level, the people that are seeing. So when you share these videos along, it might actually be helping to reach people who are maybe in career transition or hiring managers looking for candidates. And then they can come back to the activity feed and see some of these amazing candidates who've been looking and watching the video here today. So
Yeah.
make sure you guys do that. And thank you so much again, Claire. Have a wonderful day. Let you get back to the rest of your day. And we'll see all of you on LinkedIn.
Thanks, Brenda.
All right, guys. Have a good one. And I will see you on the other side. Take care.
Bye.